Hello and welcome to the first quarterly webcast for your Japanfonden. My name is Diana Phillip. I'm a client service manager in our EMEA team, and this is Andrew Brown, product specialist in our Japan team. Andrew, I understand that you recently visited Japan. Could you share some insights from the trip?
Yes, Diana, that's right. I've recently returned from a one-week trip in Japan. And yes, there were a couple of clear themes that emerged. The first theme was that even though the investment environment is very challenging, that's not preventing Japanese companies from growing their earnings. And we see this both in domestically focused businesses and those companies that are focused on exporting to overseas markets. The second theme that emerged was there were some clear signs of innovation in a number of different areas. And as bottom-up stock pickers with a focus on growth, this is very interesting. And one company I would highlight would be a business called Euglena, which is a microalgae business that's developed a commercial scale technology for using algae as a biofuel, and various companies are testing its products, and that could be very exciting.
And did you observe any changes as a result of Abenomics during your trip?
I did. And the two I would highlight would be changing attitudes towards corporate governance and growth in inbound tourism. Now, the first area is an area that lots of investors are paying attention to. And having visited Japan a number of times over the past 8 years, I have seen a dramatic change in behaviour of Japanese companies, and the catalyst for change was the announcement of a new corporate governance code. What impressed me on this trip was that many businesses were choosing to bring up the subject of governance themselves. I didn't even need to ask them. They wanted to talk about returns, shareholder payouts. They wanted to bring to my attention that they were introducing independent directors to improve the oversight of their business. On the tourism side, it was very clear to see that there are more tourists in Japan than we used to see. Now, walking around the shops, walking around streets, just seeing a number of non-Japanese tourists is very interesting.
Turning to the portfolio, can you tell me about which holdings you met with while you were in Japan?
So I met with 19 companies, 9 of which are owned in the Japanfonden. And that's very typical for an investment trip, to balance it between existing holdings and companies that we haven't met with before, to try and generate some new ideas.
And will you be making any changes to the portfolio as a result of the trip?
We won't be making many changes, which is very typical for us as long-term investors. Among the existing holdings, there was one particular company called Sumitomo Metal Mining that we have increased our position since I came back from Japan. And that's really reflecting the strength of their competitive position and the strength of their balance sheet, which positions them well against competitors that are struggling in a very difficult environment. There were some new ideas that I'd like to do some further work on, that my colleagues in the team will do some further work on. So, for example, we met with a company called Murata, which is the global leader in ceramic capacitors that are used in high-end smartphones. And what we're seeing is a new growth opportunity in the car industry when Murata's products are now being used with an increasing number of electronics in the car.
And can you tell me a little bit about how the holdings in the portfolio are performing? Are there any areas that are doing particularly well or are struggling?
In the main, the portfolio holdings are doing well, with one or two exceptions. One area I would highlight of companies that are doing particularly well, but where the share price doesn't really reflect that, is the area of robotics. Here, Japanese companies continue to have the global leading market shares. Despite the fact that some of the markets that they sell to are slowing down, they're still generating very strong profit growth because the take-up of robotics in new markets and existing markets is increasing. So these are businesses that we're particularly enthusiastic about and are minded to maybe increase positions in.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was a very interesting update.
You're welcome.